Last week, I got off a consultation call and I just sat there smiling. I'd been talking with a family planning a trip for 12 people, 5 kids, ranging from ages 3 to 11, plus 7 adults, grandma included. And instead of the usual panic I sometimes hear when people realize how complicated group travel can be, they were genuinely excited. Why? Because we'd figured out how to make it work for everyone. The 3-year-old could throw rocks in the lake, the teenagers could go hiking without being bored, grandma could enjoy the scenery without feeling like she was slowing everyone down, and the parents, they could actually relax and enjoy their vacation instead of playing the logistics coordinator 24/7. Here's what I've learned from planning dozens of multi generational trips to Banff. It's absolutely doable, but it does require a different approach than planning a couple's trip or a friend's getaway. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to make it happen, from the big decisions like transportation and accommodation to the little details that can make or break your family vacation. Welcome to the Banff Travel Podcast. If this is your first time listening, I'm Celine Brewer, a local Canmore resident and Banff travel planning expert. I help travelers like you plan unforgettable trips to Banff National Park and the surrounding area. I have to tell you, some of my absolute favorite consultations are with families planning those multi-generational trips. There's something special about helping families create memories together in the mountains. I've worked with families bringing 12 people, ranging from 3 to 75, couples bringing elderly parents who need wheelchair access, and everything in between. What I've learned from all these consultations is that the key to a successful trip isn't trying to make everyone do everything together. It's about creating a flexible framework where everyone gets to experience the mountains in a way that works for them, while still having those special moments together as a family. So whether you're bringing grandparents, young kids, teenagers, or a mix of all the above, this episode is going to help you plan a trip that everyone will love. Let's start with one of the biggest decisions you'll face when planning a multi-generational trip: transportation. And honestly, this is where a lot of families get stuck in the planning process. Here's what I typically see. Families assume they need to rent multiple cars to move everyone around. And while that can work, it's not always the best solution, especially when you're dealing with 12 people or when you have family members who aren't comfortable driving in a new place. The reality is there are several ways to handle transportation in Banff, and the right choice depends on your family situation. Option one might be a private shuttle driver for the week. I've had families hire a shuttle company with a 12-person passenger van and essentially have the same driver for the entire trip. Here's why this works so well. You're all together, nobody has to navigate or worry about parking, and many of these companies also provide guide services, so you're getting local knowledge along the way. The driver can drop you at locations, pick you up later, which means if part of the group wants to spend an hour canoeing while others sit by the lake, that's totally doable. They can also help with things like dropping someone with mobility challenges right at the door of a restaurant. Yes, this is obviously going to be costly, but think about the stress you're saving. No arguing about who's driving, no getting separated, no headaches. Another option might be rental cars, plus adding in some tours and shuttles. This is perfect for families who maybe one or two couples want the flexibility to go do their own thing, while others stick to organized tours. You might have younger, more adventurous people in your group who want to take the rental car to go hiking, while grandparents and young kids join a guided tour. The great thing about Banff is there are actually quite a few destinations accessible by public transit from the town of Banff. You can get to Lake Minnewanka, Lake Louise, Johnson Canyon using the Rome bus. It's not as flexible as having your own vehicle, but it definitely gives you options. With this option, if everyone wants to stick together, you can also do a mix of easy days in town where you walk, days where you pick a spot to meet and drive, and then a day with a tour where no one needs to drive, like the Icefields Parkway. Option 3, all tours, no rental cars. If your family prefers not to drive at all, this can absolutely work, especially if you're staying right in the town of Banff. You can walk to restaurants, you can take Rome Transit to nearby places, and you can book tours for the major places. The key here is staying somewhere central where you can walk to amenities, especially if you have young kids who might need to burn off energy at playgrounds, or family members who want the option to grab a quick coffee without coordinating a big group outing. One important note about driving here, I've had families tell me they're nervous about driving in foreign countries, but I want to reassure you that driving in the Canadian Rockies is actually pretty straightforward. We have big, wide highways, great signage, and honestly, it's easier than driving in most major cities. The main challenges are just watching out for wildlife on the roads and dealing with parking at popular spots during peak season. So, my recommendation is think about how your family actually travels. Do you like everyone doing everything together? A private driver might be perfect. Do different generations want different activity levels? Consider a mix. The goal is to make transportation work for your family and not add stress to your vacation. Once you've figured out the transportation, let's talk about where to stay. And this is where things get interesting, especially with those multi-generational groups. The first thing families always ask me is, should we stay in Banff or Canmore? And my honest answer for these types of trips, I usually lean towards staying in Banff, especially if you're not renting cars for everyone. Why? Banff is the most central. It's the hub. Everything is walkable. There's playgrounds for kids to burn off energy. Restaurants are right there. It's easy to walk to hikes like Tunnel Mountain. You can take Rome public transit if not everybody wants to go. If grandma needs a nap while the teenagers explore, everyone can do their own thing without needing to coordinate vehicles. Now, Canmore is another great option if you really want more space and need extra bedrooms. Restaurants are still walkable and there's some beautiful walks in town. But it does add 20 minutes of driving each way to everything you want to do in Banff National Park. For a family trip where you're trying to maximize time together and minimize logistics, that extra driving can add up. Now let's talk about the room situation because this is where it gets tricky. Finding multiple bedrooms that actually work for families can be hard. A lot of hotels will say that the room sleeps 6, but they mean it's 2 queen beds and a pull-out couch. That might work for some families, but for big groups, you often need actual separate bedrooms. In Banff, if you need multiple bedrooms, you can look at Hidden Ridge Resort or Base Camp Suites. Other places like Fairmont Banff Springs or Moose Hotel and Suites also have rooms that are really great for families, but they can also get pricey. For Canmore, you have more options with vacation rental properties that have 2 or 3 bedroom condos. These give you full kitchens, which can be a game changer when you have young kids or dietary restrictions to manage. So here's my accommodation strategy for these big family trips. Think about privacy versus togetherness. Yes, you want family time, but grandparents might want an early bedtime while teenagers want to stay up. Parents with toddlers might need their own space for naps. Consider getting accommodations that are near each other, but not all in one suite, unless your family genuinely thrives in those close quarters. If you all get separate hotel rooms that are in the same hotel, that can also make finding accommodations a lot easier than trying to find a place big enough for everyone. And just one more thing, pools are worth their weight in gold for families with young kids. After a day of activities, letting kids swim and burn off that last bit of energy while adults relax poolside can be what everyone needs. There are several hotels in both Banff and Canmore that have great pool facilities. Wherever you stay, book early. Multi-bedroom accommodations book up fast, especially in the summertime. I usually tell families to lock down accommodations before anything else because once you have that secured, everything else becomes a lot easier. Next up is building that itinerary. Now, the biggest mistake I see families make is trying to do everything together all the time. They plan these long, full-day adventures and then wonder why everyone's exhausted or bored. So here's my thought. Plan for flexibility and options. Let me give you an example from a recent consultation I did. I had a family of 12 with multiple kids, several adults. They wanted to see the highlights, but were worried about keeping everyone happy. So here's what we came up with. Some days, everyone did things together, but we chose activities that worked for all ages and abilities. So the Banff Gondola is perfect because you ride up together, everyone gets incredible views, and then people can choose how much they want to walk around at the top. Grandma could sit and enjoy the view, kids could explore the interpretive center, teenagers could walk the boardwalk. Other days, we plan for the family to split up. Everyone goes to Lake Louise, but the active members in the group could hike up to the Lake Agnes Tea House, while others would walk the Lakeshore Trail and even do an afternoon tea. Then everyone would go to Moraine Lake together and enjoy the stunning views from the rock pile. A tour of the Icefields Parkway is great because everyone got to experience it together and no one had to do the driving. And then finally, we left late afternoons and evenings open, but with a list of possibilities. This gave everyone some time to themselves. So some may hike Tunnel Mountain, others might want to rent bikes and ride the Legacy Trail, while others might enjoy a canoe ride on the Bow River. Everyone is equipped with a list of other options and is able to make sure they're getting what they want out of the trip as well. So, the key to the day is having activities that are naturally flexible. Let me share some of my other favorite multi generational activities. Johnston Canyon. I know everyone talks about Johnston Canyon, but there's a reason. It works for families because you can turn around at any point. Kids love the catwalks and the waterfalls. Teenagers can keep going up to the upper falls if they want a longer hike, or even to the ink pots if they're fast enough. But of course, you want to go early in the morning to avoid crowds. The Lake Minnewanka boat cruise is ideal for big family groups. Everyone sits together on the boat, you get stunning scenery, the guides are engaging, they often have fun things to show the kids. It takes about an hour or so, so it's not too long for those short attention spans. Plus, there's no physical exertion required, so it's perfect when you have varying ability levels. And then you can finish up with a wonderful picnic right there at Lake Minnewanka. Now, the Cave and Basin National Historic Site, this might seem random, but hear me out, is where Canada's national park system was born. It's accessible for wheelchairs, it's interesting for everyone from learning about the endangered Banff spring snail to the history of the national park, and it's a quieter spot that's not overwhelming with crowds. It's also great on a rainy day. Another option is Emerald Lake in Yoho National Park. The drive is stunning. There's a flat, accessible trail on the far side of the lake. It's just absolutely breathtaking. You can rent canoes if some family members want to, while others just walk or sit by the lake. Now, you've heard me say this already, but here's a pro tip for families with young kids. Build in playground time. Seriously, I have traveled with my kids extensively, and I know that this can make a really big difference. There are several great playgrounds in Banff and Canmore, and letting kids have an hour to just be kids can make the rest of your days so much smoother. Banff has their new adventure playground in Sundance Park. It's fantastic. Canmore has some great choices downtown like Centennial Park or the West Canmore Playground. Even the village of Lake Louise has a really fun playground for kids. It's worth the time to just let them run and be kids. Now, for families that have members with mobility challenges, here's some of the accessible highlights that you could include. We've talked about the Banff gondola. Obviously, there's going to be some limitations at the top with the boardwalks since there are stairs, but the rest of it will be fine. The Lake Minnewanka boat cruise. At Lake Louise, the Lakeshore Trail is wide and flat if you have somebody who's in a wheelchair. Moraine Lake, if you have somebody who has an accessible parking tag, you can drive up to the lake. Takaka Falls in Yoho National Park has a paved trail to the falls that everyone can enjoy. Even Vermilion Lakes Road, right in the town of Banff, is a beautiful drive with viewpoints to stop at. So many options around that everybody can enjoy. Now let me talk about something important, and that's giving people permission to opt out. Not everyone needs to do everything. If somebody wants to spend the morning at a cafe reading while everyone else hikes, that's okay. If the teenagers want to take a shuttle bus to a trail while adults sightsee, that's okay too. I actually recommend building in one of those choose your own adventure day where the family splits up intentionally. Some might want to do an adrenaline activity like the Banff Via Ferrata. Others might want a spa day. Some might want to hike while others explore town and the shops. And you can still come back together for dinner and everyone's happy because they got to do what they wanted. There are a lot of easy to get to options, which is where I really enjoy helping families piece this all together. All right, let's talk about the practical details that families often don't think about until they're in the middle of their trip and something goes wrong. Restaurant reservations. With a large group, you need to book ahead. In Banff, lots of restaurants can accommodate big groups, but they need advance notice. The logistics of large groups, moving 12 people anywhere takes time. So build in extra time for everything. People need to stop to use the toilet. People need a snack. And packing snacks. This sounds simple, but having snacks in your bag or vehicle is a game changer, especially with kids. And you know what? Some adults. So granola bars, crackers, fruit, whatever works for your family, have snacks there. Have a communication plan. If your family is splitting up for activities, make sure everyone knows how to reach each other. Cell service can be spotty in some areas, so having a meetup plan is important. We'll meet back at the car at 3 p.m. is better than text us when you're done. And then finally, consider having a private photographer. This might seem like a splurge or maybe isn't what your family does, but for a special family trip like this, having a photographer for even just an hour or two can capture some amazing family memories. They can capture your whole family together at iconic spots like Lake Louise or Lake Minnewanka. And those are photos that you're going to cherish, especially if you don't often get the whole family together. And then weather backups. That is the actual final thing. Mountain weather can change quickly, so make sure you guys have a plan B for rainy days. So let me give you a sample 5-day family trip that is based on actual itineraries I've created for families. So day 1, arrive and the town of Banff. Arrive, get settled at your hotel, let everyone rest from travel, take an easy walk around Banff, visit Central Park Playground if you have young kids, grab dinner at a casual spot. This is your ease into the trip day. Day 2, Lake Louise and Moraine Lake. Plan for a private tour or shuttles booked in advance. Spend time at both lakes. This can be a together day where everyone enjoys the scenery and bring a picnic lunch. If some family members want to hike to one of the tea houses, the others can walk the lakeshore. If you're going to do this, I do recommend the shorter Lake Agnes Tea House Trail. Day 3, Yoho National Park. Drive to Yoho or hire a driver. Visit Takaka Falls first. The paved trail makes it accessible for everyone, and then head to Emerald Lake. Spend a couple of hours there. Some can canoe, some can go to the cafe, others can walk the trail, others can sit and enjoy the view, and then stop at Natural Bridge on the way back. Day 4, a split day based on interests and energy levels. Option A, active group could find a great hike or an activity like whitewater rafting or the Via Ferrata. Option B, relaxed group does the Banff Gondola and explores the town further. Everyone meets back for a special dinner together. Day 5, Bow Valley Parkway and Lake Minnewanka area. So you drive the Bow Valley Parkway, scenic, great for wildlife viewing. Visit Johnston Canyon or do the Lake Minnewanka cruise. This is another good together activity that's not too strenuous but still gives you mountain experiences. This gives you a mix of together time and flexibility. It includes easier options for those who need them and adventure options for those who want them. It doesn't overschedule, but gives you a solid plan to work from. From there, I would put together other easy to get to activities around town, like Cascade of Time Gardens for those that want an easy walk, Sundance Canyon for those interested in a bike hike, evening activities like walking the Bow River trails or a bike ride on the Legacy Trail. Perhaps those that didn't do the Banff Gondola might want to do it in the evening. If you're planning a multi-generational trip to Banff, I want you to know that you don't have to figure all this out on your own. Honestly, these are some of my favorite trips to help families plan because getting it right makes such a difference. I've worked with so many families to create custom itineraries that work for their specific mix of ages, abilities, and interests. We figure out the transportation strategy that makes sense for your group, find accommodations that give everyone the space they need, and build an itinerary that ensures everyone, from your 3-year-old to your 75-year-old mom, has an incredible time. Whether you need help finding wheelchair-accessible viewpoints, want to know which tour companies can handle groups of 12, or just need someone to help you think through the logistics so you're not overwhelmed, I'm here for that. You can book a consultation with me at travelbanffcanada.com. We can spend time talking through your specific family situation, and I'll send you detailed notes with recommendations tailored to your needs. The goal is simple. Create a trip where everyone makes memories together in these incredible mountains without the stress of trying to coordinate everything on your own. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Banff Travel Podcast. If you're planning a multi-generational trip and this episode was helpful, please hit follow and leave a quick review. It helps other families find the show when they're trying to figure out how to make their Banff adventure work. If you have specific questions about planning your family's trip, whether it's about accessibility, activities for young kids, or how to keep teenagers engaged, head to banfftravelplanning.com/podcast and send them my way. I love hearing from listeners and helping families create these special trips. Until next time, start planning that family trip, and I'll see you out on the trails.